Everybody wants the best rate of return, but if return was the most important thing, everyone with a 401k would be wealthy. But I'm not seeing that. It's actually more about consistent and predictable returns. Returns that don't have the volatility spikes, that get your human emotions involved. That's more important. And in today's video, I'm gonna talk about a 200-year-old strategy called the infinite banking concepts. But it wasn't called that back in the day. It was called privatized banking. And this process is one that gives you the ability to make money twice on every single dollar. And I'm gonna show you how this process, along with the product, is going to solve your money problems. Let's dive in. Think about it. All the financial products are optimized for accumulation. But accumulation isn't always what wins the race, is it? The thing that most people want to look at today is rate of return. I hear it all the time. Oh, those things only pay an internal rate of return of 4.5% to 5%, or blah, 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 blah. I can make more in this, I can make more in real estate, I can make more in crypto. Listen, if rate of return was the single most important thing, think about this for a second. If rate of return was the single most important thing, and that was the answer, then everybody with a 401k would be wealthy, would they not? But that isn't the case at all. The infinite banking concept, what it is optimized for is not just one thing. It's not optimized for accumulation, although you can use it to accumulate wealth. It's also optimized for access, control, and access and liquidity of your money. That is single-handedly one of the most important things. You want to build wealth, you need to be nimble. You need to have your money in something that gives you the ability to access that money immediately. I can't preface how important that is now, but how much more important it's going to be in the near future. Opportunities are going to be everywhere, and there's going to be very few people that have the means to take advantage of the opportunities because they're locked up, because they were focused on rate of return, they were focused on accumulation, they did not focus on liquidity and access to their money. Also, distribution. So distribution is a really important thing. You know, when I talk all the time, and any financial advisor should tell you this, the stock market is a great, great thing to grow your wealth, to accumulate wealth, okay? It is an absolutely inefficient means of producing an income. It is a terrible means for distribution because of drawdown effects and so many other things. But the infinite banking concepts is a really efficient means of distribution. This has been being talked about for decades upon decades on how using specially designed and engineered whole life policies for distribution plans within your retirement distribution strategy will greatly improve your income, your longevity of that income, and the ability to never run out of money. These are huge things. And the last thing that this is optimized for is something that all of you should be really, really focused on, and that is your legacy. Making sure that when you're no longer here, and listen, folks, no one's getting out of here alive. And I mean that. I don't mean this webinar, but nobody's getting off this planet, okay? We're all going the same place. Well, hopefully we're all going the same place. You get what I'm saying. There's two certains in life, death and taxes. The internal buildup of the cash value within the product is tax-free, the way we design them. So we just get rid of that one certain because it isn't certain if we don't have to pay it. And under the IRS code, life insurance is a tax-efficient vehicle. Secondarily, death. We're all going to die. I know. Morbid, sad, no one wants to think about it. But if we know it's going to happen, why not prepare for it? But the problem with preparing for it is a lot of people associate with preparing to make your family or leave your family in a better place when you die requires an expense. But what if we just erase the word expense? What if the expense is now, it just requires a deposit? A premium deposit. And what if I can tell you that no matter what, you will get all your money back? No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You are guaranteed to get all of your deposits back. Now, planning for that day, now planning to leave your family in a better place, planning to leave a legacy becomes a lot easier. And R. Nelson Nash, I love the way he put it, Southern boy, he would basically kind of go on, he would say, in an illustration he'd be looking at, he would say, you know, how much did this life insurance cost? And he was talking about when the policy reached what we would call its cumulative break-even point, where every dollar you put in, you have more money in the policy's cash value than what you put in. Sorry, I'm just coming over a sickness. His answer was always, nuttin'. It didn't cost you nothing, but that's the truth. So if those are the things that IBC is optimized for, but we're all told to be focused on just accumulation, you're making a huge mistake if you're just focusing on the accumulation part. Every financial strategy also has a timeline. So no matter what, there's going to be a timeline to what you're doing. And most people, what most people do is they quit before they hit that timeline. They quit before it begins to work. I've seen this a lot. A lot of people start with the best intentions, but for some reason or another, something happens, an unforeseen thing happens, and they quit right before it started to work, right before their goal was accomplished. How many of you have stopped 3 feet from gold? That's the timeline. You're always just one step away from greatness. I'm going to go back to the basics and explain the infinite banking concepts in its simplest form, because it is very, very simple. You or other people will make it complicated because we just got to correct your mindset. Because here's one of the things before I explain the infinite banking concept that you have to understand. Because the infinite banking concept is a process, what it requires is it requires you to think 180 degrees different than you do today. We often would show the backward bicycle video because it sums up that mindset shift, but you have to think differently than what you've been taught your whole life. So I don't know how old everybody on here is. You're welcome to share, but I'm going to be 49 in July. So 49 years, or at least 40 of those 49 years, I was trained and conditioned that money works a certain way. We go out, we trade our time for money. We put a dollar amount to our hour. Oh, I'm worth $5 an hour. Back when I worked on the farm, it was like $4.25. And then when I worked in the restaurant, I got paid $5 an hour, and then $6 and $10, and you just climb the rank, right? So your hour was worth a certain dollar amount, but that's the first thing you were taught. You were taught to trade your hours, your most valuable resource, because you can't get your time back, for dollars. And you were taught to climb the corporate ladder in a roundabout way, because the longer you did something, the more you learned, the more education you got, the more your hour was worth. But then you were also taught to take that money that you earned with your hour, and you were taught to give up control of it and put it in the bank. Now, they didn't say it that way. They said, oh, you want to set up a bank account. You want to deposit your money in the bank. That's what you want to do. So you did exactly what you were told. Kind of unbeknownst to you, you didn't know why you did it. You were just told that's what you do. And then at a certain point, what you were told when you wanted things, you were told by the bank that held your money that, hey, we'll issue you a loan. Because you might only have 10 grand in your bank account, but you might need 20 grand for that car purchase. So they'll give you a loan. And we're only going to charge you 6%. Bear in mind, your money might only be earning 1, and they're going to charge you 6, so they're making a spread of 5. So what the bank did is the bank took your money and everybody else's money that we gave up control of in our deposit to the bank, and they then lent it out or lent it back to us, and they made a spread, an arbitrage on that money. That arbitrage, just so you all know, according to BauerFinancial.com, is 400 to 1,300% more. So you gave up control of your hard-earned dollars to the bank made 400 to 1,300% and lent the money back to you, to which you then bought things. And then you were told another lie. Hey, get a job, and when you get a job, save for retirement. So you might have been 30 years old. Retirement was another 30 years away. But you were told to take your hard-earned dollars and put them into this 401k because you got a tax deduction at today's tax rate, and you were probably in a lower tax rate at 30 than you are today. Okay? And then wait 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And then when we take the money back out of that 401k, granted it will be more over that period of time, we take that money out, now we have to pay tax on that money because we didn't pay tax on the money going in, we got a deduction, and we got a deduction at a lower tax rate than what we took it out if you believe that tax rates are going up. But then there's another weird thing that happened. It's called inflation. 30 years worth of inflation. 30 years of your dollars getting weaker. So you gave up your most valuable dollars when you were younger, and you did this every year, okay, because that's what you're told to do. And then when you took the money back out, you took weaker dollars out. And you gave up how many opportunities in that 30 years? How many times were opportunities presented to you? How many times did you have the ability to chase your dreams? How many times did you have the ability to invest in something that in hindsight would have turned out to be amazing and you would have made a fortune doing it? All of us, right? But you couldn't because your money was locked up. You gave up control of it to the banks and to the institutions. That's where we went wrong. So the infinite banking concept, I'm going to do this really quick, shifts all of that. It puts you in control of your money. It allows you to use your most valuable dollars, which are today's dollars. It allows you to use them in a tax-efficient manner. It allows you to earn uninterrupted compounding interest on the money even when you use it. But most importantly, it eliminates the bank. You no longer need to borrow from the bank. You borrow from your bank. So let's talk about that. It involves one change. So there are some things, and this is where we kind of got to differentiate, but I think everybody that's on here, 105 people, little light for what we did, but it's summer, okay? I got to tell you, this only works for people that can save money or that are saving money today. But listen, I bet most of you are saving money. Matter of fact, I know our audience, I know our demographic, you are saving money. So whatever amount you're saving, I want you to think about it this way. You're going to change one thing. You're going to change where your savings goes first. You're going to move it from their bank, and you're going to move it into your bank. Your bank, okay, which is not a bank, your bank is a specially designed and engineered whole life insurance policy. So I'm just going to write specially designed whole life policy. Now, you're probably thinking I'm crazy if you're here for the first time. Why would I ever put money into a whole life? If I wanted to be my own banker, why would I use a whole life? Well, first and foremost, whole life insurance is one of the few vehicles that pays guaranteed interest. So the companies we use are between 2 and 3.75% guaranteed. Also, these insurance companies pay dividends because they're mutually owned insurance companies. The dividends are not guaranteed like the interest, but they've never not paid them. So as of right now, if we took the dividend plus the interest, we're going to be making anywhere between 5.9 and 6.6% gross on our money. They call this the dividend crediting rate. Now let's just pause there, because some people that are saying, why would I use a whole life versus using a bank account, a money market, a high yield savings? Are any of you earning that kind of return on your money in a guaranteed place? I didn't think so. But hold on, it gets even better. Remember I said under the tax code, because it is considered life insurance the way we design them under the MEC rule, the internal buildup, so whatever your cash value grows to, earning this return in dividends, grows tax-free. So that's actually more for some of you in higher income tax brackets. That's like you making 7-8%. You picking up what I'm putting down? It's protected against judgments and liens, and it's private, and it has a death benefit that is paid out when you die to your family, again, tax-free. So when we ask the question of why would we use a whole life insurance policy versus a bank, a high yield savings, a money market, or any other guaranteed place you can store your wealth, it becomes a very simple thing. So we're going to do that one change, and we're going to change where your money goes first. Not all your money, we're specifically talking about your savings. Got it? We're going to move it from wherever it was going, the 401k, okay, or maybe it was going into a bank account, a money market, whatever. We're going to move it into this specially designed whole life. Now, this whole life is going to be designed and engineered around your needs and goals. It's designed and engineered around the amount you want to deposit. It has a high and a low, meaning you can put in up to this, or you can put as little as this. You pick and choose how much you want to put in. Not us, okay? You don't get on the phone with us, and folks, listen, throughout this, you're going to have the ability to get on a call with us if you think this works for you, or you think this is something you want to learn more about, or you want to discuss your situation. So we'll give you a link to book a call, or you can just give us your number. And I want to preface that really early on. If you, during any time during this webinar, if you want to talk to somebody, just in the chat that I've been kind of having you play around in, just put your phone number over there. We'll send you a text and we'll get a call booked, okay? So that's how we're going to do this. And if some of you are like, I don't want to give you my number, great. We're going to give you ours, 866-329-BYOB. Just give us a call, okay? Let's get back to this. So we changed where the money went first. Now we're going to add one step. So there are two things we need to do. Number one, you got to be saving money. And number two, we're going to add one step. Now, what is that step? I can explain this lots of different ways, but let's just come over here. Remember I said the infinite banking concept is a process, this is the process, the circle, of taking back the banking functions in your life. So let's discuss where you've gone wrong, where we've been lied to go wrong, and what we've done that maybe fits the bill for some of you. What most of you on here, probably in one point in time or another, or now, have debt, okay? So let me just hit debt, and the infinite banking concept works for a lot more than just debt. But let's just say you had debt, and I'm just going to name them out. Let's say you had credit card debt of $5,000. They were charging you 25% interest, and $300 a month is leaving your family forever because you're making that payment to that credit card. But you also have a car loan, $25,000 vehicle, or that's what's left, 6.5% interest, you're paying $700 a month. So we're already up to $1,000 here. Then you bought a tablet and a cell phone, and you financed it because Apple had a 0% interest rate going, okay? So you're like, well, why wouldn't I? You're giving away $50. So this is about cash flow. This is money leaving your family. Remember, every one of these are leaving your family every month. And then you remodeled your bathroom. It cost 10 grand. You used a home equity line of credit at 7%. $1,000 is leaving your family forever. So right here, if we were to add this up, we have $2,050 every single month leaving your family. Got it? This is the problem, because remember I said we have to talk about the problem because we need to solve your money problem. Now, the other thing I want to do here, and I want to show you how to do this, grab your calculator, and we're going to figure out how much interest are you giving away, because everybody on here, what would be a good rate of return to make on your money? If you're this person and you got these debts, how much interest are you giving away? So let's add this up. We got 7% on that home equity line. We don't have any interest on this tablet loan. We got 6.5, so I'm just adding these. So 7 plus 6.5 plus 25% for the credit card. That's 38.5 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 debts. That is 9.625%. That's your average you're giving away. Now I didn't do that properly because it's not weighted for the amount. You'd actually, because you had more here at 6.5 and more here at 25, it's probably higher. But let's just say 9.62. That's the interest rate you're giving away across your debts. Great, got it? Now some of you, that would trigger, like that's a good return. For the rest of you, it's not. But you see here, with the infinite banking concept, remember I said earlier, or actually you'll hear it, I said you will make money twice on the same dollar. Remember, we changed where your money went first, put it into this whole life policy. Let's just use that as 6%. And let's just, actually, let me be fair. Let me come down, because a lot of people beat me up. Let's just say it's 5% internal rate of return. And I don't like using that metric, but let me just meet the market where it's at. So you're making 5% internal rate of return, which would be your net return on your money after cost of insurance, policy service fee, which is like $50 to $100 a year, and that pesky commission that we're going to make for selling you that policy. Okay? So 5%. So if we do this, if we saved up enough money in here, so how much do we got? We got $30,000, $40,000, $1,000. So let's just say we, over time, have saved $50,000 in cash value in this whole life policy. What we're then going to do is we're going to go to the insurance company, and yes, we are going to take a loan. We're going to take a loan from the insurance company. Because the insurance company, what they're going to do is they're going to look at their general account where they have stashed away a bunch of money to pay your death benefit someday, because they have to. It's not a bank. Banks have to keep 10% of your deposit. Okay, that's their rule, their tier 1 capital. Insurance companies have to keep 100% of what they guarantee you. If they guarantee you a $100,000 death benefit, they have to have $100,000 in their surplus. If they guarantee you a $1 million death benefit, they have to have $1 million in their surplus. These insurance companies are massive. They have billions, tens of billions of dollars sitting in their general accounts. And they want that money to work for them just like you want your money to work for you. So when you take a loan, the insurance company literally comes in and says, okay, how much would you like? You have $50,000. You can borrow anything up to $50,000 because the insurance company wants collateral, just like anyone would. And then you have 50 grand that can be used as collateral. So we go over here and we add this up. All right, I owe $41,000. I need a loan of $41,000. The insurance company doesn't ask hardly any questions except for where do you want the money to go and is this part of a divorce decree? They send $41,000 as a loan to your bank account. And we're going to call this your segregated bank account. When you do this, you want to open a second bank account just for this so you can do books and records and tracking. So now the insurance company gave you $41,000 of your $50,000 as a loan. They subtract that $41,000 from your death benefit. So your death benefit goes down by 41 grand because they're letting you use your death benefit while you're living. So now in your bank account, you got 41 grand. You know where we're going. We're going to come over here. We're going to pay off all the debts. Credit card paid off, car loan paid off, tablet paid off, home equity line paid off. But we don't stop there. If you're going to be the bank, if you're going to be your own banker, you have to be an honest banker. You cannot steal from your bank. If we stop there, we paid off their bank with money from our bank, we now have to do one additional thing. This is that one step. we have to figure out how much we used to pay their bank, and that was $2,050 a month. All we're going to do, this is so simple, don't make this complicated, we're going to change the name on the check. You used to write checks to 4 different places for $2,050 every month. And every time when you made those payments, that money was gone. You couldn't use it to go to dinner, you couldn't use it for anything, it was just gone. You weren't earning any money on it. Now, you're going to take that same $2,050, which is worth 9.62% to you, because that's what you were giving away, and we're going to put that money into this segregated bank account every month. You just change the name on the check, or you change the name on the bill pay. $2,050, same cash flow, same dollars, is now sitting in your bank account. Then what we do is we're going to recycle and recapture that $2,050 back into the policy with an automatic loan repayment. So we're going to set up a loan repayment from your segregated bank account back into your policy. Great. Now let me tell you where things are different now. Everything is exactly the same as it was before you learned about the infinite banking concepts. You're not saving any more money than you were before. All you did is change where your existing savings went. You're going to be paying the exact same amount you used to pay on the debts, which you were already used to. Nothing changed, same dollars, $2,050. You're paying that back to your policy. But here's where the difference is. Every single month that goes by, guess what you have? $2,050 more to use the next day. But guess what else happened? All $50,000 of your money, not $50,000 minus the $41,000 you took as a loan, all $50,000 is earning in that policy because it's earning guaranteed interest plus dividends in a tax-free environment. If it's 5% internal rate of return, you're making 5% on $50,000. So how much did you actually make here? Well, you recaptured 9.62%, which by some means, most of you by your numbers like that would be a good return. But some of you were like, I want 15 and I want 18. 18 is a bit of a stretch. But 9.62 plus the 5% you made on the full amount of money. You earned uninterrupted compounding interest while recapturing this. Now imagine if this wasn't debt. Imagine if this was a real estate investment. Imagine if this was a crypto investment. Imagine if this was your flavor of the week investment, whatever. Whatever that money makes, you just recapture it. But there's one other thing that happened, and then I'm done with this, because already I think all of you should be like, aha.
Every single day your money is losing ground. Inflation is eating your savings. Debt is draining your income. And the financial system? It was never designed to work for you, but there is a way out, and the wealthy have known about it for decades. I'm hosting a free live training where I'll show you exactly how to eliminate debt like the wealthy do, how to preserve and protect your capital from the forces working against it, and how to build a clear step-by-step path toward true financial freedom. No gimmicks, no fluff, just a proven system that puts you back in control of your financial future. Seating is limited and it is completely free. But you need to act now. Click the link below or scan the QR code to reserve your spot today. The wealthy don't wait, neither should you. Now let's get back into the video.
So let's just say something happened, you went through a divorce and you couldn't pay the $41,000 back. You know what happens? Nothing. Or let me do Nelson Nash. Nothing. Nothing. The insurance company will never send you a demand letter or you're in default of paying the loan, because the insurance company just gave you part of a death benefit they promised to pay. They just gave it to you early. So they don't ever want that money back. But there is a downside, because if the insurance company gave you a loan and they were charging you interest of, I'll just use 6%. It's not, it's like 5.35 with most of the companies, but let's just use 6%. So the insurance company was charging you interest on this loan. You're still going to be paying interest on that loan. But is 6 less than 9.62? Yeah, so if the insurance company is charging you 6%, but you were giving away 9.62, well, now you're just making a little bit less if you couldn't pay that money back. So now it would be the 9.62 minus the 6%. That's your new spread. Okay? So that's your new spread. That's it. But and that's all, right? That's it. That's all. I'm trying to think if there's any other things that would happen. The death benefit would be less. You'd have an outstanding loan on the policy. You wouldn't be able to use all 50. You'd only be able to use 9,000 of the 50,000, because remember the 50 was collateralizing the 41,000, and your ticker is still running, but you're still doing better than you were before. remember I said every time you recapture this $2,050, you have $2,050 more to use. So you don't give up control of that money. You actually took back control of it. You have it all. But there's another thing that's happening. Every single month, the balance owed to the insurance company is being reduced by $2,050. So if the insurance company is charging you 6% on $41,000, let's just do the math, times 0.06, you would have been paying $2,460 a year in interest on that 41 grand. But every single month, you're paying back $2,050. So 2,050 times 12 is 24,000 bucks, because that's the amount you were repaying on all your loans over here, so you're just taking it back. So now in 1 year, your loan balance to the insurance company is now $16,400. Now I'm not doing this right. It's actually going to work out better, but let's just do that. 16,400, whoops, 16,400 times 0.06, the same interest rate. Now you're only paying $984 in interest. You went from paying $2,460 to now paying $984. 984 divided into the 41 grand you initially took is a 2.4% interest rate. People get so hung up when they look at this, they're like, oh, why would I ever pay to borrow my own money? This is why. Because in this scenario, if you were paying 6%, you're really not paying 6%. After 1 year, your effective APR that you paid was 2.4. 2.4 minus the 5% IRR is your spread if you do it that way. So that would be spread number one. But you could also just do spread number two. You could do 9.62 minus 2.4. So you made money twice on the same dollar. And I get people beating us up all the time. Oh, that's not true. That's not how it works. I just showed the math. You did make money twice on every single dollar, did you not? What I just demonstrated in way longer than I thought I was going to take is the infinite banking concept. And this is where we go back to what I said originally. It's optimized for accumulation. You're accumulating money. It's optimized for access. You can use that money anytime you want. It's optimized for distributions. At some point in time, you could use the cash value to just take an income stream for retirement or an early retirement, because there is no IRS penalties for taking the money out of here like there is your retirement account. And the legacy. In this scenario, let's just say your death benefit was $1 million. Should something happen, there's $1 million that would pay out to your family in the event of your early death or your timely death, however you want to call it. So with that being said, Craig, I want to give you the ability to kind of show some things here. And I know I was supposed to take 15 minutes explaining that, but gosh,
I do have some questions though on your diagram.
Okay.
So when we had the external debts, that's out public, that's on our credit report. What happens when we bring that debt into the policy? Do we still have that public debt? Is it impacting our credit report? What's that show?
No, any of this debt with the insurance company, none of it's reported. Remember I said earlier, it's private. So no one will ever know how much cash value you have. No one will ever know how much death benefit you have, except for your family and people you tell. And no one will ever know how many loans you have out. It is 100% private, so none of it shows up on your credit report. The way the credit would look at it is you have zero debt. That's how they'd look at it. That's a good question. We never bring that up.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And then also, I think it'd be worthy of talking about in that distribution phase, you talked about how it's not taxable, but we have this other thing out there called IRMA, and it's the income adjustment that they make. Yeah, and basically what that's doing is when we have taxable income, that's driving up the taxes on our, Medicare payments and all that stuff. So
Irma's a nasty lady, man. She's terrible.
yeah, she's really nasty. So the beautiful thing about in the distribution phase that I like about this strategy is that doesn't impact those numbers at all.
Not at all. Yeah, so any income you take from your policy, remember, again, I sound like a broken record, but three's magic. It's private. Okay? There's no taxes on that money. It isn't showing up as income. Okay? So it's not driving Irma to want to take more from you. And she will.
So there's a lot of options and paths, but I think if there's one thing people walk away from today with this webinar, it would be think of this asset as that one where Chris talked about. It's an accumulation tool, so we can accumulate our savings in this place with guarantees. And while we have that accumulation going, we can access it We can use it for debts. We can use it for major purchases. It might even be an emergency or an opportunity fund, right? So there's different ways we can access that capital. Then we get into retirement, there's a distribution phase. And then when we all pass away, there's a legacy. And start thinking in terms of those tools that just gives you, that whole path. Because that's ultimately what this asset does. And of all the things that I have in terms of assets or investments, I don't look at my policy as an investment, but I look at it as an asset. I don't worry about it. It just goes, it just cooks. I don't even have to really think about it. It just grows and gets better and better every day. But that's one of the important things we want to do. Now, I want to highlight some things. Sean, I appreciate you putting those comments in the chat, and I hope everyone's reading those because what she's putting in there is extremely powerful. There's a difference between what you would go, let's say you walk down the street to your State Farm office and say, hey, I want one of the, talk to this, heard this Chris Naugle guy, and he's talking about this infinite banking. I want one of those things. Stephen, can the State Farm rep sitting in the office help people create this system with a whole life policy?
I mean, I've never met one, and I know a lot of agents, I was a financial advisor in the past. Chris was, I mean, you're taught what to sell their products. You're taught, one way of looking at things. We just look at it a completely different way.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of wondering for the community, do you want to see what you would get with someone that doesn't understand how we're building infinite banking, and then what would it look like to get an infinite banking design strategy? And then we'll go into how that can be used. So Shauna wants to see it. Anyone else out there want to see what would look like if you went down to the State Farm office? All right, Ricky wants to see it. So Chris, I'm gonna share my screen out here and jump into what we call the vault here. Just have to get the right. All right. So you guys see my screen okay? Chris, Steven, you guys see everything okay? Okay, awesome.
Yeah, it looks good.
So what I've got is I'm jumping into the system we call the Vault. This is our operating system for the infinite banking system where we load our policies. It tracks our cash value. It tracks our loans. It helps us with debt pay downs. It helps us with investing some of that money into opportunities. But let's say that I mosey on down to my State Farm office. Now, State Farm provides, great offerings in terms of property and casualty. So nothing negative about State Farm. I'm just saying this is what we all want to be aware of. So I go down to my State Farm office and I say, hey, I'd like to get one of those whole life policies Chris Naugle was talking about so I can be my own bank. Well, first off, they're not going to really understand what you mean, but they may say, well, how much you want to put in? And let's just say that you come up with a number of $10,155. That's what you want to save. That's what you want to put into your banking system. So 10,155 goes in. I want to also draw your attention to this death benefit of 846,000. So for that $10,000, we bought $846,000 of death benefit. But here's the problem. What do we have in cash value at the end of year one? Well, if we go back to Nelson Nash, the way he would say it would be nothing. We have nothing. So I put in $10,000 and I have nothing to use, but I have a big death benefit. Who here thinks this is a great banking system where I put $10,000 into my banking system and I have nothing to use? Because I can tell you, Chris doesn't like, he's got a thumbs down. All right. Well, maybe Chris, it just takes more time because, sometimes we hear it just takes longer, maybe in, next few years. So let's put in another 10,000. So we put in cumulatively 20,000. We still have zero. I'm kind of starting to think that maybe this infinite banking thing is kind of like what Dave Ramsey talks about. It's kind of a scam. By the third year, we put in $30,000 and we have $5,433 to use. So what I want to just point out is this is a traditional whole life. All of our premium is going to buy death benefit. Very little goes to building cash. However, over time, if we wait 17 years, we put in $172,000 and we have 174. So hey, we broke even 17 years later. And this is just what it looks like. This is what traditional whole life policies look like. Now, let's say you had a policy and you've had it for 15 years. Should you get rid of it? If you've had it for 10 years, should you get rid of it? No, because you're still probably at that point where it's somewhat efficient. But is there a better way to do this? And so let's go ahead and jump over to a design that, working with our team that you may see. So remember that other policy had $864,000 of death benefit. We're putting in the exact same amount. Why is our death benefit so low? We went from 864,000 to 164. Wouldn't you all agree that's a pretty big difference? We gave something up. What did we give up? Well, we gave up some death benefit so we could have cash value immediately. So now 10,000 is going in, we have access to 8,400. What can we do with this? Well, we could use it to pay down debts. What else could we do with this? Well, this could be something as an emergency fund. What else could we do with this? So this is where the infinite banking concept comes in because it's infinite. You could do whatever you want with that money. When you borrow from the insurance company, they're not going to ask you, um, hey Christian, I know that you're out there driving a truck. You probably need some equipment. When are you going to pay us back? And what are you using this for? Are you buying ratchet straps? Are you buying some new tires? What are you doing with this? They don't ask you that because they don't care because they have your death benefit as collateral. But this is the big difference between what we do and what you might get at a state farm. So remember how I showed you what was breaking even in 17 years? Well, now we're getting a break even at year 6. We put in 60, we have 62,000. We're now at that break even point. But from a banking perspective, what we oftentimes look at is if I'm putting in a dollar, say I put in 10,155 in year 4, if my cash value grows 10,669 because of all the previous years of compounding, don't I now have a positive, what we call cash on cash, meaning I put a dollar in, I'm getting more than a dollar of growth. And yes, by year 4, we're there. So there's a lot of things I want to kind of highlight in here. One, if I take a loan at year 1, say I take, a portion of this 8,000 out, is that going to slow down or stop this growth? So go ahead and put in the chat if you think it's going to slow or stop the growth. Or if you don't think it's going to slow the growth, let me know that too. So Jalen says no. Anyone else want to put a vote out there? Christian says nope. Yeah, we've got an educated crowd. No, it won't impact the growth. So isn't that cool that I can continue to grow? I can continue to accumulate, as Chris was talking about earlier, while I have access. And God forbid something happens to me, we still have this death benefit over here. So that's pretty cool. Now the other piece I want to show is, well, we could just jump into some different use cases at this point. But are there any other questions on just the mechanics of how these policies work and really just want to highlight the difference between what we mean by specially designed versus going down to the State Farm office. James is asking, what would happen if you started with, say, 20,000 in the policy? Well, I actually have some of those. I don't know if I have a 20,000, but let's see. There's a 25. Let's do that one. So, James, typically what happens when you have front-end loading where you put in, say, a $25,000 chunk up front, or it could be 10,000, could be 100,000, it doesn't matter, but we can front load policies with chunks of money. So this had a $25,000 chunk going in with a 10,000 annual premium. What that's going to do is it's going to drive the cash value up higher, faster. And we typically have about 90% access to that amount we dumped in. So if I dump in 20, I'll have 90%, of that available within the first 30 days. So James, it's a really great way of quickly getting chunks of money into a policy so that we can do other things with it. So let's say you had 20 grand in cash and you're considering, should I pay some debt off? Wouldn't it make sense to dump that into the policy, then take the loan and pay the debts off? Some people will say, well, I think I can move faster if I just pay the 20,000 directly towards the debt because Craig, you're telling me to put 20 grand in the policy, but I don't have access to all of it. And you are exactly right. And this kind of goes back to that parable Chris was talking about with the bamboo. If anybody knows how bamboo grows, I think it takes about 7+ years after you plant bamboo before you even see it popping out of the dirt. This is a bamboo plant. We're thinking long term. Nelson Nash said we need to rethink our thinking and think about long term strategies. Because in the short term, I could just take that money, throw it on my debts, and be done with it. And short term, I'd be better off. But you just lost all the opportunity cost in that 20,000 for the rest of your life. By doing it this way, we're going to compound and grow that for the rest of our life. So let's rethink our thinking and think long term. Let's consider, what does that dollar do for me now? And the fact that we're putting this into an asset where we have accumulation, access, a great distribution. We talked about IRMA, we talked about the tax, benefits. And then, of course, when we all pass away, it'd be great to provide the legacy. So these are all the great things about the tool itself. Chris, Stephen, anything you guys want to add that maybe I missed?
No, I think it's great. I'm just hitting on all these questions coming in. That's it. Going good.
Awesome. Well, now this, I want to take it to the next step, because this is how we accumulate inside the policy. We fund our premiums. We want to put in as much as we can in terms of savings, because we're going to be able to accumulate more. But now the next question is, what are some things we can do to use it? And I'm going to jump over to this thing called Debt Blaster. And I just want to walk you through a quick example of, maybe have debt. And do we have anybody with us today that maybe has some credit card debt, car loans, student loans? If you do, just put in debt in the chat, just so I know if I'm speaking to something that you guys care about. So if you have any debt, and it could just be third-party debt, credit cards, medical debt, student loans, I want to walk you through how this can be used in that process. All right, so we do have some people here with business debt, personal debt. The first thing we want to do is really get a handle of what is that debt. So we want to go through and list out what is each debt. So I have a personal credit card, $2,500 at 24.9%. Maybe I'm paying $75 a month on that. So really, we're just going to go through and list all of our debts out. And then we get a better picture of what's our total debt. Chris was showing you on the board an example of debts. And remember, we just kind of came up with a percentage, but we're looking at the weighted average. So we're paying about 8.66% on this debt, and we're paying $1,265 every month towards that debt. So this money is just going right out the door. Now, what do we do? How do we make this better? So the first thing we do is we classify it. And I always like to put things in context of, if you don't do anything different, meaning if I pay this personal credit card off, when that's paid off and I take that $75 and I just go maybe out to eat more often, or I just go spend it, we're not going to use that $75 to help the other debts. We're probably all familiar with, most of us, with the snowball approach or the avalanche. And it's no different if we can adopt that strategy to say, hey, once this personal credit card is paid off, why not take that 75 and add it to the 125 and just keep going? So that's kind of step one. And what I can show you down here is what we call the no strategy, which is I'm going to pay a debt off, take the money and run. For that $78,000 of debt, you're going to be paying on this for 181 months. You're going to pay $30,000 more in interest. So total, you're going to be paying $108,000. So that personal credit card, the business credit card, the car loan, the student loan, that cost you $108,000 to get rid of. If you were disciplined to the point where you would pay one debt off and then just keep stacking them, we can get the job done in 80 months and pay about $22,000. Now, let's say that you had, some extra money. You could throw $200 extra or $500 extra at it. That's fine and dandy. But let's just go through the example of, you sat down, had a strategy call, we mapped out your debts, we looked at your cash flow, and maybe you have the ability to put in, I'm going to switch this out. You have the ability to put in, say, $500 a month into a policy. So previously I was showing you a $10,000 one, and then we showed a $25,000 dump in and $10,000. But Now let's just imagine we're every month we're taking $500 and we're putting it into a specially designed whole life policy as our savings. That's our accumulation, right? So every month we're putting in the 500, that's check mark on our accumulation box. Now we're going to take a loan, check mark, we have access, right? So we're getting loans, and let's say we do that every quarter. So we're putting in $500 every month, and then maybe once a quarter we take a loan. What are we going to do with that loan? Well, we're going to go back up to these debts. The first loan I take, I'm going to throw it at this personal credit card in addition to my minimum payment. So I'm going to try to accelerate that debt payment. Now, why would I do this? Well, I've got the money in the policy compounding and growing for the rest of my life uninterrupted. I'm simply accessing it, leveraging it to accelerate my debt because we want to, basically get all that debt refinanced into our own banking system where we own the debt, we control the debt, and it's no longer on our public record. It's not on our credit report. If we have a job loss or maybe we have a major expense and we can't pay our system back, hey, you're in full control of that. So that's why we want to do this. But mathematically, what does it look like? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate using our cash value for those debts. So here's what happens. In 56 months, we are done paying our debts off. We're now going to take that $1,265 that we were paying to debts. Remember, we were paying that $1,265 to the car loan, to the student debt, to the medical debts. We're simply just going to flip a lever and write that check back to our own system. It's our policy loan repayment. So every time we pay $1,265 back to our own system, Chris talked about this, it's going to make that available again. So if we need it, we're not losing control to it. We're just simply taking it from one pocket and putting it in the other. But it'll take you about 21 months to pay that policy loan back in full at $1,265 a month. So we're done paying debts off in 77 months. At the end of 77 months, we have built up $36,000 of cash value and we have a death benefit of $169,000. So what we're simply trying to do is think of our system as a bamboo. We're planting the seed, we're watering it. Now we're using it to get rid of higher cost debt, refinance it, and pay it off. But at the end of that, we not only freed up $1,265 of cash, but we also have 36,000 of cash value built up and a death benefit. So this is why we teach what we teach, is we want to be able to build wealth through the debts that we were paying anyway. And that's one of the strategies of infinite banking. So with that, we're going to be paying debts off for 56 months. So we're taking loans from our policy and we're just throwing it at the debts. We're not paying loans back yet. Once that debt's gone, then we're going to take that next step of taking that 1265. So where I'm getting the 1265 is that's the total of all the debts we were paying anyway. So we were paying 75, 125, 180, and on and on. Once all these are gone, we have 1,265 that we're simply just going to pay back as a loan repayment. We're going to do that in this example. It's going to take about 21 months. Now realize that if you need to slow that down, you can. If you need to speed it up, if you had a tax return or bonus and you want to throw that at the loan, it's just going to make things go faster. You are in full control of when and how to pay that loan back. But we're just simply saying if you do the exact same amount of money that you were paying to the debts, run that back to the policy, it would take about 21 months in this case. So no loan repayments until we get the debts out of the way is kind of how we're building that out. Now this is one example of, we accumulated because we put the 500 a month in, we accessed it, we used it for debts. What I want to do is kind of jump back into the policies real quick. Yeah, let's just go to this one. And let's take a quick peek at, I'm just going to pull up probably something somewhat random. Well, let's just use this one. That same $500 a month, that policy that I was just using for debts. So we're putting in $500 a month, we're pulling out cash value. We were doing that to get rid of debt. But let's say we jump down to, maybe at age 70, we plan to retire. And throughout our life, maybe we started more policies, and hopefully you did, because that's what we do is we keep building the system as we get more cash flow. Like that 1265, it's oftentimes a question where people say, "Hey, I had 1265 going to debts. I've now paid all those debts off and I've paid my policy loans back in full. What should I do with this 1265?" Well, to me, that 1265 or some of it, we would want to run into build up our banking system even more. So the point is you're going to build up more policies over time. You're going to build up that accumulation pile and have more access. But let's say in addition to maybe some retirement accounts, pensions, Social Security, who knows if that's even going to be around, but let's just say all those things are in place. Here is another source of money that you can use. So at age 70 in this particular policy, we built up $174,000 of cash. You can start to use that as part of your retirement. So now we're in that distribution phase of what we talked about. We did the accumulation, we did the access. Now we're simply talking about how do we start using this as a supplemental retirement tool. And maybe it's even a tool we tap into because when the market goes south, we don't want to pull out as much money from our qualified accounts or our stock-based accounts. So we'll simply shift over and start pulling some out of our policies. Then when the market recovers, we stop taking it out of our policies and we go back to the market. And Chris did a really awesome video on that, talking about what we call the volatility buffer and covered asset strategies. But this is the cool part about it is now we've used that tool throughout our lives for debt reduction, for major purchases, for opportunities. And now we've restored it, and now we have it used as another purpose for retirement savings. Now let's jump on down to the next phase of life because let's say you live to be 87 years old. Maybe you've used some of it, maybe you didn't, maybe, the death benefit decreased because you were using some of it, but the point is there's a death benefit remaining here. So at the end of our lives, we're done with this world, we're moving on to the next one. There's $405,000 of death benefit in this particular case that's now going into the family, whether that's in a trust or it's a named beneficiary. But that's $405,000 that is going to that beneficiary taxed, without being taxed. So isn't that cool that we just kind of walk through those four stages of accumulation, access, distribution, legacy? It's all here. It's an amazing asset, amazing tool.
As you can see, if you guys have been reading and kind of listening along, there's a lot of different situations out there. Every single one of us is very unique. We all have different goals. We all have different money problems. I'm sure there's people on here that can barely get by right now and are maybe in between jobs or just trying to figure out how to get their income going. Maybe some of you have lots of debt and you're just overcome with the debt. We can definitely help you look at that, restructure that, maybe move some stuff around. I mean, Craig, how many times have you met with a client and they feel like they have no money left at the end of the month, but you look at what they're doing and, they're putting so much money towards debt payoff instead of funneling it first through a policy, or maybe they're even like really overfunding a 401k because they want that, retirement investment for the future. But, you're making 10, 12, 15% in a 401k in the stock market and you're paying 23, 25, 18, 29% on credit card or other debt. I mean, you're still losing money there. So maybe reduce that for a while till you can catch up. So a lot of times, even if you feel like you're drowning or you're just behind, have a conversation with our team. Our money mentors are great at walking through that, digging in, taking a look. Can we move some stuff around? And then others on here, maybe you're doing well right now. You're just worried that the market's going to pull back, that your investment accounts are going to drop. You don't know what to do with the money. You want to protect it. Your family needs to be protected, but you don't, you want to be able to still have benefits today. These are all different situations that we deal with every single day. And so, like I mentioned before, we're going to meet you where you are. So whatever your situation is, whatever your urgency is, somebody was just on here saying, hey, my income is a little unstable right now. I talked with one of your mentors. We decided to wait. That's great. But, another option is, you don't always want to wait because God forbid, but what if something happens with your health? Or something happens where you can no longer qualify for one of these whole life policies. Well, a lot of times what we'll do in those scenarios will help you start what's called a term insurance policy, but we do a special kind of term. It's called convertible term. But what that does is it locks in your health today. So you have the death benefit, you have the life insurance policy, you have the approval, and then down the road, a year or two, whatever down the road from now, whenever you're ready, the income stabilizes, you're then ready for infinite banking. We can convert that term policy into a IBC whole life policy at that time. And we don't have to go through approvals and all of that. Your health is locked in at that point. So, not only do we want to make sure we're protected, we want to also, avoid some of these risky situations that can occur. So we do deal with all these different situations. Again, it's a free call. It's a strategy call that we do with you. I'd recommend doing a Zoom. So I want you to get to know your money mentor. If all goes right, we are going to be working with you for years and years to come. Hopefully for lifetimes to come, not only work with you, but eventually work with your children as they grow up and continue to be there for you as your money mentors, as your life insurance agents, and as your trusted advisors at the end of the day. So, guys, this is all we do all day, every single day. We focus on infinite banking, but because of our, financial experience, Chris being in the business for many, many years, myself, Craig, our team, we're able to talk with you through other financials, what that looks like. Chris just did a whole training last night on guaranteed fixed annuities. Why? Because right now in these market conditions, those make a lot of sense for a lot of people. Now, will guaranteed fixed annuities make sense 3 years from now? Did they make sense 3 years ago? Probably not. But right now in this market, they're making sense. So that's what we're looking at. But at the end of the day, this infinite banking concept, these specially designed whole life policies, this is your foundation. This is the foundation. And you can see what Chris, we always say, it was on Chris's board just a second ago, change one thing, where your money goes first. And that's going to open up your options for everything else that you can then do financially. Let's get the money in this policy. Let's get that debt paid off. Let's get the money in the policy. Let's use that to do major purchases like buying vehicles. And instead of bleeding all that interest out to banks and financial institutions, let's keep that interest in our financial lives, in our families' lives, in our kids' lives forever moving forward. Let's get that money in a policy first, and let's go out there and invest and buy real estate and take advantage of tax strategies and grow our wealth. But it starts with that first thing, getting that money in that policy first. And that starts with the strategy call. So one more time, we're here for you guys. Put your phone number over in the chat. Just the host and panelists, we will reach out to you right after this to get you set up, or you can schedule a call with us. I'll put the number over, or you can call us on the 866 number. We're very easy to get a hold of, but we look forward to talking with each and every single one of you and helping you become your own bank and get started on this financial journey. So anything else you want to share, Craig?
No, I think that was an awesome wrap up. And Sean, I don't know if you're here where a few people have asked for the annuity talk. I don't know if we have a link to share just yet on that, but if we can get that out, that would be awesome. But no, I think everything you said, Stephen, is spot on. And we want to look at all those puzzle pieces of your financial life and figure out, just like Stephen said, maybe you don't have cash flow and you're buried in debt, but you're maxing out your 401k. We won't necessarily advise you on what to do there, but just kind of point the picture and say, hey, does it make sense to maybe do this? And it's really all about getting you in a better position than you are now. How do we create more cash flow? How do we create more control? And the way I look at some of these tools is the infinite banking system. We're using that. We're using the specially designed whole life policy through our lives. But the way I approach things is I want to have a bucket of guaranteed retirement income. And right now I have annuities. I have whole life. Hoping that Social Security is still around when that day comes, but I don't know. And that bucket of money I always look at is that going to be enough for me to have a place to live, a roof over my head, food to eat, and a TV to watch? that gives me the right to then go take some of that other money that I have and put it into things like what Steven just said, real estate and all these other investments, because I've got the core stuff already taken care of. Now I can go build wealth and maybe in some cases even take, some bigger steps that I wouldn't have otherwise. But that's kind of the way I view the world. I hope this was helpful for everybody. But other than that, Shauna just put the replay out there, so thank you for that. Grab that link if you're interested in watching what Chris talked about on the annuity replay. I think that just happened last night, wasn't it? Or was it? Yeah,
Yeah,
last night.
last
It was on Tuesday.
that was
Yeah.
it.
So anyway, with that, if there's any last questions, happy to address those. Otherwise, I'll let you have the final goodbye, Stephen, because you're always good at
Yeah, sounds
wrapping
good.
up.
Sounds good. I appreciate everybody being here, guys. We will continue answering questions at Ask Me Anything, which is a live stream show we do every single Wednesday. The Ask Me Anything happy hour. It starts at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. It runs 60 minutes, but we are on YouTube. We are on Facebook and social media, just taking questions through the chat, answering those. You'll be able to start learning who are the different money mentors, what is their style. We've also found that where our clients, will say, hey, I really want to work with Craig, or I really want to work with Steve, and I really want to work with Mike or Jason or Brian or whoever it is. And so it's a great way to kind of start learning who people are, stuff like that. And we're here for you. But other than that, guys, appreciate you being here. We're here every single Wednesday, this exact same Zoom link. Every Wednesday, come back. It's all new content every week, all new discussions, all new strategies, all new training. So 1 p.m. Eastern for Wealth Webinar Wednesday. I know a lot of you come every week. For those of you that are new, we appreciate your time and we look forward to working with you into the future. Have a great day. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.